The county whispered about the cowboy who refused every woman without a reason. He lived alone on a wide ranch, strong, silent, and impossible to read. Suitors came with smiles, gifts, and dreams, yet he always gave the same quiet no. People called him proud, some called him broken, but no one truly knew his hidden past. One freezing evening, a fearless woman rode to his gate and faced him without fear. She did not praise him or plead for love. She simply asked, "Do you want a wife, or just another winter alone?" The wind went still as her question hung between them. His calm eyes flickered, revealing a storm he had locked away for years. For the first time, he felt his loneliness exposed, and the choice he avoided could no longer be ignored. And fate waited silently for his trembling answer that would change his life forever. He was a quiet, wealthy cowboy who lived on a lonely ranch far from the noisy town. His land was wide, his horses were strong, and his life looked perfect to everyone who saw him from a distance. Yet behind his calm eyes, a deep silence always remained. People respected his courage and hard work, but they feared the cold wall around his heart. Women came with hope, families came with offers, and friends tried to make him laugh, but he never let anyone stay close. He politely refused every proposal without anger or explanation. At night, when the wind touched the empty house, memories of a painful past returned to him like shadows. He carried a secret loss that shaped every choice he made. Because of that hidden wound, he chose loneliness over love, believing that distance was the only way to protect his fragile heart from breaking. Ahe believed distance was safety, yet the fearless woman refused to stay distant. She returned the next morning without invitation, carrying quiet confidence instead of flowers or praise. She spoke to him as if he were simply a man, not a legend, and her steady gaze unsettled his careful control. He tried to ignore her presence, focusing on fences, horses, and routine, but her calm footsteps followed through the ranch like an unanswered question. She asked about the land, the storms, and the long winters, never about his wealth, and that difference slowly disturbed the order he had built. When he gave short replies, she did not complain. She only watched him with thoughtful silence that felt heavier than any demand. Workers noticed the change and exchanged curious looks, whispering that no woman had ever stayed this long without being sent away. Rumors traveled through the town, growing sharper with each passing day, yet he still did not close the gate on her. At night he sat by the window, seeing her words replay in his mind like echoes he could not silence. He wondered why her question hurt more than the memories he had hidden for years. Her courage did not attack his pride. It touched the loneliness he never admitted even to himself. The more he tried to remain distant, the more he sensed her presence filling the empty spaces of his routine. She helped around the ranch without asking permission, fixing small problems, speaking kindly to workers, and bringing an unfamiliar warmth that confused him. He told himself she would soon grow tired and leave like the others. Yet she stayed with patient strength that felt both comforting and dangerous. One evening, while the sky turned gray and the wind grew colder, she stood beside him without speaking, sharing the quiet view of endless land. In that silence, he felt something shift inside, a fragile awareness that someone finally saw beyond his guarded calm. He realized admiration had always been easy to reject, but understanding was harder to escape. The town kept whispering, waiting for the moment he would send her away. Yet each day he delayed that decision, unsure whether he was protecting his past or slowly opening a door he had sealed long ago, and the uncertainty frightened him more than any storm he had faced on the open range. She sensed his inner battle but chose patience over pressure, giving him space while remaining quietly present. Her restraint deepened his curiosity because she never demanded promises or offered dramatic speeches. Instead, she lived each day with steady honesty that mirrored the life he once wanted before loss changed him. The ranch felt different now, as if every corner waited for his decision, and the long winter approaching seemed to ask whether he would face it alone or with her courage beside him, and the answer remained hidden within his guarded heart, while silence stretched between them, awaiting a choice that would define his future. As night deepened, he walked through the silent house, and every creak of wood stirred memories he had forced into darkness. The empty rooms felt heavier than before, as if they now carried questions he could not escape. He remembered a time when laughter once filled these walls, when hope had lived here without fear, and the contrast tightened his chest. Her simple words kept returning, soft yet relentless, asking whether he truly wanted to live or only survive another winter. He sat by the cold fireplace and closed his eyes, but instead of peace he saw the face he had lost years ago, the love that vanished during a cruel season that left him alone and guarded. He had told himself that distance was strength, that refusing attachment was wisdom, yet the echo of her voice slowly cracked that belief. The realization came quietly but powerfully that he had not been protecting his heart. He had been hiding from life itself. Each memory no longer felt like a warning, but like a reminder of the warmth he once allowed himself to feel. He began to see that his silence was not courage, and his isolation was not control, but a shield built from fear of losing again. The ranch, once a fortress of safety, now seemed like a cage shaped by his own hands. He questioned whether real strength meant enduring pain alone or risking connection despite the chance of sorrow. Outside, the wind moved across the land, carrying a distant sound that reminded him of her steady presence, patient and unwavering. She had not tried to erase his past or demand promises. She had only asked him to face the truth he avoided. That honesty unsettled him more than any confrontation because it left him alone with his own thoughts. He realized that admiration from others had always been easy to reject because it required nothing from him. But her quiet understanding asked him to confront the man he had become. He wondered if he had mistaken numbness for peace and solitude for dignity. The thought frightened him, yet it also awakened a fragile sense of longing he believed was gone forever. His heart, once locked behind firm resolve, now felt uncertain and exposed, as if waiting for permission to feel again. The more he reflected, the clearer it became that every refusal in the past had been driven by the same hidden fear of repeating old loss. Strength, he slowly understood, might not be the ability to stand alone through endless winters, but the courage to open the door even when memories warned him to keep it closed. This realization did not bring comfort. Instead, it brought a restless tension that refused to fade, forcing him to confront the truth that his greatest battle was never with the world outside, but with the fear quietly ruling his guarded heart. The tension followed him into the next evening as heavy snow began to fall, covering the ranch in a quiet white silence that matched the storm inside his heart. He stepped onto the porch to breathe the cold air, hoping the winter wind would calm his restless thoughts. But instead he found her standing near the gate, wrapped in a simple coat, waiting with steady patience. She walked toward him slowly, her footsteps soft on the snow, and stopped at a respectful distance. Yet her presence felt closer than anyone had ever been. Her eyes held no demand, only truth, and that honesty made escape impossible. She spoke gently, telling him she did not come for comfort, wealth, or a place in his grand house. She only wanted the real man behind the silent walls. Her voice did not accuse him, yet every word reached the fear he had hidden for years. He tried to answer with his usual calm restraint, but the practiced strength in his tone began to weaken under her steady gaze. The snow kept falling around them, turning the world quiet, as if time itself paused to listen. She told him that loneliness was not dignity, and that pretending to be unbreakable would only leave him empty when life asked for courage. Her honesty did not feel like pressure. It felt like a mirror he could no longer avoid. He felt the old memory of loss rise again, sharp and clear, yet this time it did not command him to retreat. Instead, it asked him whether he wished to live forever under its shadow. His silence stretched, heavy and trembling, until the weight of unspoken truth finally became too great to carry. He admitted that he was afraid, not of loving, but of losing once more and facing that darkness alone. The confession escaped him quietly, almost like a surrender he never allowed before. She did not interrupt or offer dramatic comfort. She simply listened, allowing his vulnerability to exist without judgment. That simple acceptance felt stronger than any promise, and it softened the rigid control he had relied on for years. For the first time, he sensed that revealing weakness did not reduce him. It made him human again. The snowy night surrounded them with calm stillness, and in that moment he realized that fear had shaped every decision he made, yet it no longer felt powerful once spoken aloud. She stepped closer, not to claim him, but to show that understanding could exist without chains or expectations. The distance between them became smaller, filled with quiet emotion and fragile trust that neither of them rushed to define. He felt the protective walls around his heart begin to loosen, not shattered by force, but opened by patience and truth. The realization carried both relief and uncertainty, yet it also brought a rare sense of peace he had not known for years. The quiet peace of that snowy moment lingered, yet a deeper question still waited between them, demanding a final answer he could no longer delay. The wind brushed across the ranch, carrying the sharp chill of winter, and he felt how easily he could retreat once again into familiar solitude where nothing could hurt him, but nothing could truly warm him either. His mind warned him to remain safe, to return to the life he had carefully controlled, while his heart urged him to accept the fragile warmth standing before him with patient courage. He looked at her steady eyes and saw neither pressure nor expectation, only a calm invitation to choose a life that included risk along with meaning. The weight of years pressed upon him, reminding him of nights spent alone, victories that felt empty, and silence that echoed louder than any crowd. He realized that every winter he survived alone had slowly stolen a piece of his joy, leaving him strong on the outside, yet hollow within. The fear of losing love again rose like a shadow, whispering that hope could bring pain just as easily as comfort. And for a brief moment his old instinct urged him to step back and protect himself once more. Yet he also understood that refusing this chance would not erase fear. It would only guarantee endless loneliness disguised as strength. The realization tightened his chest as he recognized that true courage might not lie in isolation, but in trusting someone despite uncertainty. Snowflakes settled on his coat as seconds stretched into a heavy silence that seemed to test the very core of his resolve. She did not move or speak, allowing him the dignity of making his own decision, and that respect deepened the emotion already building inside him. He saw clearly that she was not asking him to forget his past or promise a perfect future. She only offered companionship in the present moment where healing could begin. His thoughts battled fiercely, past sorrow pulling him toward safety while present warmth drew him toward possibility. And the conflict felt more intense than any physical challenge he had faced. Finally, he understood that remaining alone would not truly honor the love he once lost. It would only imprison him in endless remembrance without growth. That insight shifted something fundamental within him, replacing rigid fear with a cautious but genuine hope. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, he allowed his guarded stance to soften, and instead of turning away as he had done so many times before, he took a single step forward toward her. The movement was small, yet it carried the weight of every year he had lived behind emotional walls. In that quiet action, he chose connection over isolation, courage over avoidance, and a future shaped by shared strength rather than solitary endurance. And the cold night seemed to breathe with them, as that simple step opened the path to a life neither of them had fully imagined, but both were now ready to face together. That quiet step became a promise stronger than any spoken vow. And from that night, he chose presence over distance. He told her he could not offer a flawless love, yet he would never hide behind fear again. Days passed, and the once silent ranch slowly filled with gentle laughter, shared work, and cautious trust that healed old wounds. The county watched in surprise as the man who feared attachment began to live with open eyes and a softer heart. He still carried memories of loss, but they no longer ruled his future. Instead, they reminded him to value every fragile moment of warmth. She never demanded perfection, only honesty, and that honesty became the foundation of their new life. People learned that even the strongest souls can tremble before love. In the end, one fearless question melted years of frozen silence and turned a lonely winter into a home.